our main presenter, Darcy Davis Beghein. She's a Coptic minister since 2008 and has combined her training as a teacher, life coach, and singer to bring healing to her corner of the world. Combining her study of spiritual philosophies and disciplines of the mind-body-spirit connection, Darcy helps others understand the spiritual side of success by working in harmony with the universal laws. For over 40 years, she has worked in schools and spiritual organizations as a successful speaker, educator, inspirational coach, and singer. Her approach empowers people to manifest their dreams through transformative thinking and decisive action to create conscious living, loving, and being. Her engaging teaching style invites people to incorporate practical practices with heartstream living to actualize a life they love. Darcy currently lives in the Phoenix area with her husband Jim and her sidekick Max. Her presentation tonight is, let's get back to that, Love Comes First. Okay. And that is a presentation I am definitely looking forward to hearing.
O light of God, illuminate our minds. O love of God, fill our hearts. O power of God, direct our will. Let light, love, and power enlighten humanity. I borrowed this prayer from John Davis's book, Revelation, for our time. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and it beckons expressions of love, love songs, visions of romantic love, gifts of flowers, sparkly jewelry, and chocolates packaged in red heart-shaped boxes. It's February and love is in the air. First comes love. Where do you even start with a topic like that? In the Bible, John 4, verses 7 and 8, it says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and he who loves is born of God and knows God. He who does not love does not know God, for God is love." So let our foundation for this lesson be that God is love. In the Course in Miracles, we learn that there is no time, no place, no state where God is absent. So if we accept that God is everywhere and God is love, and we are created in God's image, then we are born of love as well. In love, is it not our very essence? If God is, then love is. Love is how we all began. First comes love. This is a simple enough idea, one that is foundational for many spiritual traditions and practices. However, simple as it is, like so many things, it is not an easy concept to incorporate daily with fidelity. As seekers of the truth, we have great intentions to live lovingly and demonstrate love and care to those around us. Often it's in the practice of putting love first where we fall short. Perhaps we get pulled into an argument and find ourselves being asked to choose a side. In another scenario, we may be tempted to judge someone whose values do not align with ours. As long as we are breathing, we will from time to time find ourselves in situations that stretch our capacities to stay true to our loving nature. In Matthew 20:20, verses 37 through 40, Jesus states, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and prophets hang on these two commandments." When I was very young, I didn't worry about how to love God. I grew up in a loving home, so loving life and loving those things in my life came very easily. I said my nightly prayers by adding, "Jesus bless God and God bless Jesus." I don't know what made me come up with that little footnote at the end of my nightly prayers, but it felt right. So I prayed that prayer for years. I think in my childhood innocence, I figured that God and Jesus bless us all the time, and they needed someone to return the favor. Who better to bless God and Jesus but each other? As I grew up and life taught me more about self-consciousness and criticism, both from others and myself, loving God in the right way seemed like such an impossible task. I felt so small compared to the vastness of God, and figured if God sees it all, he certainly could see all of my inadequacies. I was sure I was a disappointment to God at times, but I still tried to love with all my heart and do the best to the best of my understanding. Loving my neighbor as myself was a confusing concept growing up, because so often I liked others better than I actually liked me. I questioned my worth and my abilities, and I often second-guessed myself. I found it hard to forgive myself for mistakes. Does this sound familiar to any of you? I'm sure I'm not the only one. I struggled with loving myself and didn't really feel as though I understood those Bible passages at all. Society taught me that loving myself really meant that I was arrogant or big-headed. I'm sure we have all had questions about how we fit into God's plan. Spiritual love is such a huge concept for me to wrap my earthly brain around. And yet I realize my understanding of that love has changed over the years on my life's journey. As my spiritual maturity has grown, so has my perspective about love. Mother Teresa said, "When you know how much God is in love with you, then you can only live your life radiating that love." It's as if she is saying that we are conduits of God's love. Isn't that what life is about? Being an expression of love in action, letting God's love and light shine through us and out into the world? Mother Teresa had written on the wall in her home for children in Calcutta the following: "People are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. What you spend years creating, others could destroy overnight. Create anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, some may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best you have, and it will never be enough. Give your best anyway. In the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway." I love how this reading progresses in the vein of love, either love for God or love of self. It speaks to an unconditional love, regardless of what others do or think. The wisdom in this reading reminds us that there will be pushbacks in this lifetime, but the goal is to recognize that there will be struggles and to remain living from love. The final line sums it all up, that our lives are really between God and us. The rest is just icing on the cake. Some of you know this story because I've shared it with you before, but I spent many years deliberating about my purpose in life. I would pray to God, begging to know what it was that He wanted me to do. I spent so much time worrying about choosing the right thing or going in the right direction. Oh, the time I wasted on indecision. Then, while meditating, I again asked the question, what would you have me do, God? The answer was as clear and audible as if someone was sitting right in front of me. I want you to be happy. I remember asking, what? Again, the answer repeated. I said, I want you to be happy. I remember opening my eyes to look around, and I was thinking, is that all? I asked that, not really believing what I had just heard. It didn't seem like a big enough request. He wasn't asking me to volunteer 3 times a week at a food kitchen. He was just saying, just be happy. The answer was simple, brief, and to the point. And I knew that that was God, because that's how God communicates to me. There was a part of me that knew this was the answer, but I didn't want to believe it could be that simple. I look back and I think that I wasn't confident enough in my own abilities to allow myself happiness. At the time, being happy didn't seem like enough. God wasn't asking me to move to India and help the poor. He wasn't asking me to give up my life as I knew it and make big sacrifices. It was simply just be happy. It makes sense to me. Those of us who have children of our own or have children in our lives want them to be happy. Those of us who have loved ones also want them to be happy. We are children of God. It seems fitting and right that God would want us to be happy. Happiness denotes a feeling of joy, and to me, that resonates with people and things I love. Back when I first heard, I just want you to be happy, it was hard for me to fathom the simple complexity of that request. Now, so many years later, as I'm older and hopefully wiser, it seems like the perfect response to the question. The answer was coming from a place of love, God's love for me. That began my acceptance of responsibility for my happiness, a reflection of God's love for me. It was my responsibility to follow my heart's desires, to live the life that God intended, a life of love and joy. It is the acceptance of taking on the mission of loving God with all my heart, soul, and mind. Part of that job requires me to love myself. Our own master, Hamid Bey, put it this way. Jesus received his followers from spiritual inertia by feeding them truths which help them to understand spirituality. Love is an attribute, obeying no laws except its own. To be truly and steadfastly loved, we must improve our spiritual nature. It has been said that we should owe no man anything but love. So do not impose a discordant nature upon the world. Be in love with God's creations, and happiness shall be yours. Years ago, I wrote a song called I Am the Love. It was conceived out of the realization that I spent too much time looking for love outside of myself, when really the love was really within me. I was the love. The love wasn't some other person who I hoped would love me. The love started with me. And until I started living that truth, I wasn't going to find love in something or someone else. In the song, I claimed that I was one with love's power. Claiming oneness with your heart's desire is key to embodying it. The more I claimed oneness with love, the closer I came to realizing more love in my life. Aligning with love healed my heart, and it wasn't long after writing and singing that song that my husband Jim came into my life. In the Course in Miracles, Marianne Williamson said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others." I love that quote, and I've used it many times in my teaching. It's such a beautiful reminder of God's love from which we are born. We are called to express that love to one another, to God's creatures, and to the planet. This quote reminds us who we are, the children of God. First comes love. So all of this is well and good, and it helps me conceptualize and understand the bigger picture. But what do I do with all this knowledge? To me, it makes sense only when I can make things practical and bring these ideas into practice. It's through practice that we integrate these concepts into our being. Otherwise, these are just ideas that you know about. They're not ideas that you truly know and understand. It's through the practice that you make the progress. I'd like to share some of what I've done that have been meaningful to me to help bring more love into my life. The energy of love is self-generative. The more you lean in, the more love will present itself to you, because love is such a high frequency energy, 500 on the Hawkins scale. As you know, the higher your vibration, the better you feel. So one of the practices that I have used personally and with clients is asking yourself the question, what is the most loving thing I could do for myself right now? I've used this so many times when I've had tough days, and I listen for the answer from within, and then I take action. And this is the key, taking action. You can have the greatest ideas and the greatest insights, but if you don't then step into it and take action, it just floats away. So put wings on those prayers, and the answer comes. Honor the answer with that decisive action. Another idea is just using the breath. Combining love affirmations with breath work is something that you can do wherever you are. Even if you are with other people or you're at work, you can still incorporate silent messaging with an inhale and an exhale. Something as simple as, I breathe in love, I breathe out peace, can change your energy very quickly. Focusing on the breath puts you in that present moment and allows the presence of mind and heart to settle in. Affirming oneness. I've always had good results from focusing on oneness. I affirm I am one with love. This is a great forgiveness technique too. By stating that you are one with love and there is only love between you and the person that you would like to forgive, you then elevate love's energy to assist with the forgiveness process. For instance, you could say, I am one with love. Sally is one with love. There is only love between us. By chanting, speaking, or singing, bringing mantras into your mind and your heart, this also helps bring love back in, helps universal love flow. It's a simple way to affirm love within you and all around you. Sometimes I add movement to the mix, just like a mantra as I'm moving around or dancing, singing and dancing, saying mantras, saying chants that focus on love, expressing that love. Then nature. And I know I'm in a lot different space than some of you. Some of you are surrounded with lots of snow, but I have the ability to step out into nature every day. And I find that is the way that I can connect with the Creator in such a purposeful and meaningful way, just looking around as I walk around in nature. I've gotten in the habit of paying attention to whatever's around me. Hummingbirds darting from flower to flower, busy ants working, the breeze whispering in my hair, dogs barking and children laughing in the park. When I stop and pay attention to these details, God's love pours forth, a perfect reminder of how much we are loved by the Creator. So if it's too wintry where you are right now, or maybe too slippery to safely be outside, take a 5-minute break to look out the window. Maybe watch birds at a bird feeder, or a squirrel that's trying to get into the bird feeder. That's always really funny too. View pictures of nature trails. You can go online and look at different nature scenes and step into that feeling of God's love through nature. And there's always Facebook and those kitty and puppy videos. Who can watch those and not have a smile plastered all over your face? They're adorable. You can read. If you don't like where your mind is taking you, change the channel, figuratively and literally. Read or study something inspirational. Read a love poem. Listen to uplifting love songs. Skip those love did me wrong songs. Journal about the many ways you experience love in your life. Spend some time doing something that you love. Enjoy the company of someone that you love. I love the wisdom by the Persian poet Rumi, and he says, be soulful, be kind, be in love. Love is the whole thing. We are only the pieces. So let love be the first thought upon your waking and the last thought before you sleep. Align with love. Be the love you wish to see in the world. Follow and embody the examples of love demonstrated by the masters. For you are love. I am love. We are love. When love comes first, then we know we are loving the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind. As the wise bard John Lennon said, all you need is love, love. Love is all you need. Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful, Darcy. Thank you for that presentation. I actually took several pieces of notes here. Um, you've got some really great material here and something that deserves to be watched and listened to again. Being the person who's always interested in manifesting, the one thing that you mentioned there that I'm not even sure if you recognize it yet, but the concept of oneness. And as much as you're saying being one with love and being one with the thing that you would like to see more in your world, and that being the pathway to actually bringing more of that into your world. So that's a really great method for manifesting that you've got in there. I really like that.
Thank you. Thank you. I always
Um,
like to put the practical in there because, the teacher in me.
yeah.
And now here's the lesson. here's the homework.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yep. I love that too. I love the practical side of things. It's all good. Actually, as in terms of the practical side, the question that you suggested that we ask ourselves, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself right now? Um, do you have a story about where you came up with that question? What brought you to arrive at that one?
That's a great question, and I'm not sure if I can remember when I came up with that. Um, it was I was having a hard time, and I thought, this is ridiculous. I don't really want to stay in this energy, so it just popped into my head. What's the most loving thing I could do for myself right now? Okay, well, maybe it's taking a walk. Maybe it's taking a nap, And I spent the whole morning, I kept on asking myself that question, and then I would do what I was led to do, and then I'd ask the question, okay, now what do I need to do? Because I just needed that needed that love booster.
Mhm.
And so thanks for asking about that, because I've used that with friends, who are going through a hard time since then, and it's been really helpful for them as well, and for clients, just saying what is the most loving thing you can do for yourself right now that you're in this situation that feels like a really heavy circumstance. Let's infuse it with love.
Mhm. The only other question that I had regarding that, I know there are some people out there who are so used to being in a non-loving environment, and they have this disconnect from the
Mm,
feeling of love. And people who are in that state, they might listen to this recommendation of ask yourself what's the most loving thing you can do for yourself. And I know that the question's going to come up for at least some people. Isn't that being selfish? Isn't that, wouldn't that lead us to be totally self-indulgent? And don't we need to live up to our responsibilities in life? And I'd just like to have you respond to that for those people.
love your neighbor as yourself. Not an easy thing for me. I kind of touched on that a little bit. That was a hard one for me growing up, because I did have a lot of inferiority an inferiority complex, I guess. And so it was really hard for me to think of how I could be loving to myself. But I think over time, so here, let me see if I can go back to your question. Um, I have had a lot of luck with asking people if they can't immediately think of doing something for themselves. If they have a child, or if they spend time with a child, then I'll ask them, what if you had your niece here in front of you, what's a loving thing that you would do with your niece? And then kind of coax them in through the back door a little bit on that, so that they can see, oh, well, I think I might enjoy that too. And then kind of draw them forward, if that makes sense. I think that when we can see things, particularly when children are just so innocent, and they're just pure love. And when we can talk about putting things, I've used thinking of people as a child in teaching healing through forgiveness too. Think of them as a child and maybe some of the things that they went through, and that's been a helpful tool for me. So that's where I'd start with that one, if that's helpful.
Right. And your reference back to the quote of loving others as yourself, I think that's partly where I was coming from, because there are some people, and myself included, it's like, how much do you really love yourself? And like Ziglar used to say, I'm just a little guy from a little town doing little things. I'm nobody special. And then there are other people that I've talked to where they make a mistake and immediately they're criticizing themselves. They're saying, "You idiot, how can you do something so stupid?" And they're so down on themselves that way. And I think it is an important message that we all need to love ourselves. And it is okay, because that is the pathway to healing, as you said.
Absolutely.
So
It takes practice.
Yep, it takes
Take it from one
practice.
who's practiced it a lot.
Yep.
Takes practice.
So I'm going to take myself off the spotlight and open the floor up to questions from everybody else. Just to let everyone know that if you are only seeing the main speaker, you can get to the gallery view and see everybody. Mouse up to the top right of the Zoom window, and there's a thing that says view. Click that, and then you'll have an option to switch from speaker view to gallery view. And then that way you can see everyone who's joined us. And we've got some really wonderful people here. Welcome, everyone. And who has a question or a comment for Darcy?
Darcy, we were having coffee. I live in a retirement home, and every Saturday we have a coffee for the people in our building.
Mm-hmm.
People really got into it, and they were telling of very sad things that happened in their childhood. And at first I listened, and I tried to make light of it by saying, I'll bet you can top that one, and you can top that one. And I couldn't stay there. I don't know. How could I have helped?
Okay, so let me think here. Because I have been in situations where the conversation goes down a really, I guess I usually start with empathy and just say, that must have been really painful to live through that, or that must have been, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And then maybe try to see if there was any way we could draw out a silver lining from whatever that was. But usually starting with compassion and just letting people know that you heard them, that particularly if it's a painful moment, that because everybody just wants to be heard. Everybody wants to feel like someone's connecting with, in some way with their pain, that they're not alone in their pain. And so that might have been a place to start. I know sometimes I'm caught off guard. I'm thinking, oh shoot, what am I going to say? How do I engage this person and let them know that I care about them? And sometimes it's a lot of quick thinking on your feet. Or I leave the situation and, like you say, oh, I wish, what could I have said that would have been different, to help that person. But you can't go wrong with empathy and compassion.
I might suggest that after you hear their story of woe, then you say, tell me about something wonderful that happened to you. and just kind of balance it that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people join your coffee group. It probably could go all day.
About 10 of us, but usually you just have little groups of people sitting near you.
Mhm.
Well, I remember when I was first divorced, and if I would get really down, I was reading Wayne Dyer's Pulling Your Own Strings. And that's the first that I realized that I could control my feelings, that I didn't have to be down all the time. And what I would do when I started to feel really depressed is I'd pick myself up and go out. I would go to a movie, something that was going to make me feel happy. I would pick something that was cheerful and something fun, and it would get me out of that funk. I didn't have to stay in that funk. And so I think just picking yourself up and doing something that you really enjoy doing can get you into a whole new state. I think that's the most loving thing that you can do for yourself.
We always have the choice.
I didn't realize that until I
Some
read
people
that
don't.
book.
Exactly. Some people don't realize that they have a choice to change their mind
Mhm.
about how they're going to approach something, or how they're going to sidestep and maybe leave that behind and move into a more positive space. So good for you, taking yourself on a date.
Yeah. You don't have to be with somebody to enjoy
You
a
don't.
movie. It's just you and the screen,
lot of-
and I get so involved in it.
Have a chance.
A lot of single dating myself.
I think one of the nicest ways to love others is to compliment them. There's nobody in the world that doesn't like to be complimented.
Sincere compliment.
Sincere compliments. When you find somebody doing something, like going out to dinner and you nice waiter or waitress, and they say, boy, you are a great waitress, or you are a great waiter. And they don't get a lot of recognition. They will take that really sincerely. So I think most of you do that, but when I thought of number one, who can I compliment today? And then not only they feel better, but we feel better.
Yes.
So that's what I have to share.
Yeah, taking off of what John just mentioned, when I did work as a school photographer with Life Touch, going into the different schools to take pictures of all the kids, one of the joys of that job was to work with someone who obviously wasn't feeling good about themselves. And in that situation, you're taking hundreds of pictures in a day, and you really don't have a lot of time to spend with each of the kids that are in front of the camera. But sometimes it doesn't take much. Sometimes it's just a matter of, hi, how you doing? I need you to sit over here, put your feet over here, sit up straight, turn this way a little bit, give me a little bit of a head tilt, and show me that beautiful smile. And the tone of voice communicates sincerity. And I can't tell you how many people, how many kids, girls mostly, but they didn't think of themselves that way until I said that. And it's like, hey, maybe I do have a beautiful smile. And it just comes out naturally. And of course, as the photographer, that's what I was going for, is a natural smile. But that was one of the joys of that job, was to be able to make that short connection with one person at a time and let them know there is something about them that looks good, that is good, that is worthy of recording on film.
Absolutely.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I would just like to say that, I like to feel considered. I'd like to consider others. So and a simple acknowledgement of someone as a person really goes a long way in this world, I find. And it doesn't matter who you're interacting with, as long as you know that you've acknowledged them as a person and they have dignity as a human being. There you go. I think that shows them a lot of love and respect.
Thank
That's
you
all
for
I
sharing
wanted.
that. Yep.
Agree.
Good
Yeah,
point.
Good point.
Yep.
thank you.
I also was a teacher, and I working with life touch guys.
Uh-huh.
She was a teacher.
A teacher, yes, and
Yep.
I would stand at the door every morning when the students were coming in my classroom, and I'd just read faces as fast as I possibly could. How are you today? Oh, did you get enough sleep? Are you hungry? Oh, what's going on? Just so that they knew that there's somebody that was looking out for their welfare. And I worked in the roughest school in my city, right? And so some of them had issues of hunger and domestic violence and all kinds of not so pretty situations, right? So school is their safe zone. Mhm.
Knew you saw them.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes they
it's-
didn't want to be seen.
Yeah, exactly.
a simple way I think you can also add to that, the compliment and the rest of it, is just simply thank yous when you're dealing with anybody out in that's, I don't know, whatever, just thank you. And people are usually pretty receptive of having your gratitude given to them.
Yeah, when I was with the group that went to Egypt in 2016, learning the local word for thank you, la shokran, was one of the most important things that we learned, because we found that just by acknowledging people and thanking them for every little thing that they did just made the entire trip go so much smoother than going in with an attitude of, yeah, you're supposed to serve me. Come on, what's going on? So we were very appreciative of everything that everyone did for us, and it was a wonderful experience.
You said it in their language.
Yep.
My husband and I were activists, so we're always trying to improve the lot of humanity, so when we go into a restaurant or where there are service workers, they're generally not paid well and they don't have a great life. So they're very easy to approach and talk to about, how is your life? Do you make enough here to live on? Yeah, so it sparked some great conversations, and we've made friendships out of it.
I think another easy thing to do is, while you're doing all of this, to make eye contact, to really connect soul to soul with those people. And you don't know what's going on, they don't know what's going on. I think we know, but it's just that soul connection, that eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And since there's a little break, I'll correct something that I misspoke just a moment ago. Thank you in the Egyptian Arabic is actually shokran. La shokran is actually no thank you. So I misspoke myself there, and I felt it was important to correct that. But shokran. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy.
You're welcome. Thank you all for being here this evening.
It was a beautiful evening.
Thank you, John.
You made it beautiful.
And when things are going well, I thank my spirit guides and the angels that are with me. I when I'm feeling good, it's like, thank you, for making this happen. Everything fell into place.
Mhm.
In some way or another, that lifts me up, just saying thank you.